Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. In this tutorial we will explore Excel, and no matter what your level is in Excel, because we are going to explore the whole software or the whole program, starting from the very basic level up to the advanced and professional level. So without any further delay, let's jump in and see how Excel works. This is the interface of Excel. In the top we have this top bar, which contains most of the functions that we are going to use while dealing with Excel. Starting with the file menu. In file menu you can do many things, like for example starting a new Excel sheet or open an existing sheet in your device. You can also access the info of the current sheet that you are using, including the size, the title, tags, categories, and more. You can also check who the authors are and who modified or who was the last person who modified this Excel sheet. You can also see options like protecting your workbook. So if you are using a workbook that you want people to only view but not able to change, you can use protecting your workbook. So for example, if you want to protect your workbook, you have all these options, starting with using read only while users open your worksheet. So in case you want your sheet to be only viewed without being edited, you can click on this option, and now your workbook will prevent any editing on it from other users while allowing only viewing. You can also choose encrypt with password, so that you can choose a specific password to write, so only users who have this password will be able to access this document. Next is protect current sheet, so you will only protect a specific worksheet or part of the worksheet to be protected. So if you want, you can just collect or select all the columns in here. However, if you just want to protect some columns, you can select these columns and mention the password that will allow the editing of these protected data, then press OK. You can also protect your sheet by choosing protect workbook structure. So here it's also like a password that grants other users the ability to edit, and by editing in the structure I mean adding like new columns or adding new data. So you are protecting the structure, not the data itself. Next, you can protect your sheet using restrict access, so that people will have the ability to access your Excel sheet but will not have the ability to edit, copy, or print. Next is to add a digital signature, so that it's like a trademark to your sheet, so that it will be authentic and yours. Next is to mark as final, so people will know that this workbook is final and it will not accept, or it does not need any further edits. Next is check for issues. So this option allows you to check three main things, which are the document itself, so that you will know if there is any hidden property or personal information contained. The next one is check accessibility, so that you will know if it will be accessible by people with specific disabilities. And next is the check compatibility, which means that you will make sure that this Excel sheet is compatible with other versions of Excel. Next is manage workbook, and in manage workbook you are allowable to recover any unsaved workbook that was recently unsaved and or accidentally shut down. And finally, browser view options, and this is related to how your Excel sheet is viewed on the browser and not the Excel program itself, which is on your desktop. And as I said, you are able to see all the properties of your Excel sheet. You can also see the related data, related people to who created the Excel sheet and who modified on it, and to check its file location in case you don't know where it was saved. Next option is to save your Excel sheet, and by saying save, it means that it has existing location on your device, so you will just save this final edits on the pre-existing file on your desktop or on your device. While save as will allow you to save this sheet for the first time, so that if it does not have any any previous file on your device, you will be able to create the first or initiate the first file on your device. Next is the print, so that if you want a hard copy of your Excel sheet, you will be able to do it from here. Next is to share, and by sharing you can share it with people with the specific links, or save to a specific cloud, or to share it with an email. Next is export, and by export you will be able to create more than one type of file using this export. You can create it as for example an Excel or a PDF or like a text file. So you can choose change file type, and you will be able to choose other file types from here. Next is publish, and by publish you will be able to upload your workbook to Power BI in case you are a user of this service. And finally you can click on close, so that you will return back to Excel program itself without having a specific file opened. So if I want to return back and open this file that I was just using, I can go to file and click and check the recent files. Then I will find it on the top, so I can pick it up, and it will ask me if I like to open it as read only unless you need to make changes. So now it asks me this text because I protected my Excel sheet before exiting. So if I clicked on no, for example, it will open the editing ability of this sheet because I am the owner of this sheet. However, if other users who are not granted access, they will not be able to get to this step. They will only have the option to read only the file. So this is basically the file option in the top menu. You can also access your account settings. You can give a specific feedback of something that you like or you don't like about Excel, and you can access more options about Excel itself. So we have the general option, or the general edits, where you will be able to edit things that are related to font, to your username, things that are not related to the data that you are inputting, but to your account and to how this data is viewed as a default. Next is the formulas, which is related to any formula or any arithmetic equation that you place on your Excel sheet. Next is data, and data controls how you control properties like pivot tables and other data analysis related data viewing or controlling. Next is proofing, which is related to correct misspelled or miswritten words. Next is the save data, which detects how you will save your file, in which format, and things like recovery and so on and so forth. Next is the language, which controls what the language that will be selected as a default and what are the options of languages that you have on Excel. Next is ease of access, which provides options like start screen, for example. And finally you have advanced options, which contains options like editing options and things that are not commonly edited. Most of us are just using the default options, the default advanced options, unless you are a user of high customized standards and demands, and you want to control it from here. So it has basically all type of editing, but in a more advanced options like editing options, cut, copy and paste, image size, formulas and formatting. You can control it all from here. So we have other options that are not commonly used, like customize, ribbon, quick access, add-ins and trust center. Then I'm going to skip these options because they are not commonly important to our episode today. So this was the first option that you can access from the top bar, which is the file. Next option, which is pretty much the most commonly used in Excel, is the home, because it contains all the basic properties and commands that you use daily while using Excel. For example, the most basic properties or commands, which are the cut and copy. So if you want to get this word, for example, from a place to another, you can click on cut, then go to another place and click on paste. If you want to do the same thing with keyboard shortcuts, you can click on Ctrl plus X to cut, then go to the place you want to paste and click on Ctrl plus V. Copy do pretty much the same thing, however it does not extract the first text, but it copies it. So you will have this text in two different places. So if I clicked on copy and went back to another place, then clicked on paste, it will paste this text successfully to another place while keeping the previous one. You can also do the same thing by clicking on Ctrl C to copy and Ctrl V to paste. Next we have this format painter, which means that it will extract a formatting from one cell and adjust it to the format of another cell without having to change its content. So if I want this cell to be as bold as this one, I will go to this and click on Format Painter, then head to the next cell and click on it. It will get the same exact formatting properties. Next is properties which are related to your font and text size, text color, fill color, which almost exist in Microsoft Word. So if I want to change the font type, I can do it from this drop down menu. Like this. If I want to change the font size, I can do it from here. If I want to make this font just 1 degree or 2 degree larger without having to access all this drop down menu, I can click on this for faster increase in size or faster small in size. I can make the text bold from here, italic from here, underlined from here. You can also add a specific border to your cell from. So by accessing this drop down menu, you will find many options of your borders. For example, only bottom border like this. You can choose any border in any direction, or you can choose no border at all, or you can choose thick outside border, bottom border, or what I prefer, all borders. So whenever I make a table, I just select the group of cells and choose all borders so that it will be distinguished from the surrounding. Or you can just create it like this without having to add a border, but only adding a different fill from the background. So you have both options, whether to choose a specific border, or you can just select a group of cells and change their color so they appear as a distinguished or a separate table. You can also choose other customized options like draw borders. So you can just get this one and you can connect the dots that you want. So in case you want something which is not symmetric, you can do it from this option. See, like this. So this is not a symmetric table. So if you want it to be customized like this, you can choose it from draw border. And you also have more options to draw your borders, like draw border grid, which is just applying vertical and horizontal lines, and it will draw the table for you. You can also erase any borders that you don't like this. Now it's completely back to normal. And you can change the line color of the border. So if you want this border line to be different, for example, you can select it, and choose a different border line color, like red for example. By clicking on it like this, you will find that it changes into the color you want. You can also change the line style itself, which mainly depends on its thickness. So it can be thick, it can be thin, and it can be even dotted or interrupted like this. You can also access more borders to find more options which are more customized to your own desire. You can change the border from this border cell, which exists in format cells that we will also access from another way. So you can get here to the style, change it, you can change the color, you can change the border, the bordering, whether it's all bordered or just a specific part of the cell, and you can also choose whether it's inside, outside, or none. So basically it's all in one. Next, you can change the fill of cells. So if you want to change the fill of this group of cells, you can select it and choose another different color, like white. You can also apply the same to this part. You can change it to a second color, like this for example. You can also change the text color itself. So if you want to change the color of this table content, you can go to text color and change a different color, for example, like this. So in home section you have so many comments and so many controls that you can apply to your Excel sheet. This is why it's classified in this way. So for each section it gives you a description for it below. So we accessed the clipboard section, which allows you to copy and paste. Then we discussed the font section, which shows you all the properties of your font regarding its colors, its size, its type, and so on and so forth. Next is the alignment, which controls what is the specific or the relative position of your text with regarding to the cell it exists within. So if I chose this one, for example, I can choose to raise it up. Let's just make it clearer by choosing a cell and merge it, which I will discuss later. Something with no commands, for example. This one, I can choose to make it up, in the middle, down, left, middle, right. I can also choose to change its orientation, so I can make it vertical text like Chinese, for example, or I can make it angular counterclockwise, or make it clockwise. I can do different orientations based on what you are creating. You can also choose format cell alignment for more alignment options, which does also exist in format cells that we will access later. You can also choose to decrease the indent in case there is an indent in your cell, in your text, or increase it like this. And you can also make it left to right text direction in case you are writing in an English language, or the opposite, right to left direction, if in case you are writing in Arabic language, for example. Next, you can wrap the text. So wrap cells usually doesn't appear unless you have a text whose size exceeds the cell in which it is within, like this. So if you want to access more of the cell existing, more of the text existing in the cell, you can either head to this formula bar on the top and read it, or you can have a wiser option, which is wrap text, which allows to write the text customized into the size of the column so that all of it appears and not only a part of it because it exceeded the borders of the cell. And finally, you have merge and center, which I did before, which allows you to merge two cells together in case you want bigger room for cells to write different things. Like for example, if you want to add a title, if I clicked on this cell for example and I wrote title, you will see that it's very small. But if I grouped a large number of cells and chose to merge and center, it will be like this, and you can now increase its size so that it appears in a clearer way. Perfect. So we discussed how alignment works. Next section in the home section is what is related to numbers. So in case you have a cell which contains a number like this, you are free to choose how to display it. So you can choose to display it like general number, no specific formatting, or you can choose like specific a number which is defined as a number and not as a text, or you can choose currency, so it will add the dollar sign. You can also choose short date, so it will add your text as a date. You can choose long date, so that it will add a date but in a different formatting which is longer. You can choose time, so it will add the time on the cell based on the number you placed. You can choose a percentage, so it will turn it back to what we did before as a percentage. You can choose fraction. You can choose scientific, and finally you can choose it to be a text. And you can also access more numbers, and again it will open format cells and choose from the cell number from it. You can also change the type of currency that is written in case this cell contains a currency. So let's go back and choose currency. You can choose a different currency like euro for example, and it will change the currency in the cell. You can also choose a percentage style from here. You can choose comma style from here. So it's basically like fast command to move between currencies, percentage and decimal without having to access this drop down menu. You can also choose to increase decimal, so in case I turned this back to decimal and I wrote large number of decimals, it only get me 2 numbers. So if I want to access more numbers in this decimal number, I can click on increase decimal and it will add one figure, then another, and it will add another, and so on and so forth. You can also do the same by decreasing decimal, which is opposite to this command. Now we discussed the number section. Moving to the style section, which is to me one of the most important sections in the home section, and it's somehow not basic because people uses it in advanced comments and orders like conditional formatting, for example. So conditional formatting is amazing when it comes to data analysis because it describes your numbers based on their values. So in case I want to differentiate between these numbers, I can just select my table, then head to conditional formatting. Or let's, for example, choose one parameter at a time. So if I chose the revenue growth rate, let's apply one conditional formatting for each one of these 14 controls. If I chose this first one, I can choose conditional formatting and choose to highlight specific cells. So if I want cells which are above 10%, for example, I can head to greater than and choose the value I want. I can click on 10%. Then I can use the color of the conditional formatting. So for example, I can use it as a green fill with dark green text. So now you can see all the revenue growth rate which exceeded 10%. If I chose the customer acquisition cost, I can head to conditional formatting and choose another rule which is less than. If I want cells which are below 1,500, for example, I can choose it from here and choose a specific color like yellow fill, for example. Now I can highlight my net profit margin and access conditional formatting. Now you will be able to choose, for example, if you want only values between two specific boundaries. So if I choose between and I want just cells which are in the average zone, I can choose between 25% and 75%, which are the cells in the middle. Now you will be able to choose the color. We can choose, for example, light red. Let's add the percent here and there. Perfect. Now moving to the churn rate, I can choose conditional formatting again, then choose highlight cell rules. I can choose only cells which are equal to a specific value. So if you are interested, for example, in values which are 80% specifically, you can write 80% and choose the color. So if you want more colors, you can access custom format and you will find the fill with more other colors, like for example the blue. But the blue will just hide our text, so I'm going to choose another color like the gray, for example. And now you have gray colored cells. Next is return on investment. If I chose highlight cell rules, I can choose a text that contains, and since my cells only contain numbers, then it will not be wise to choose this option because it's irrelevant to the type of data I'm using. Next is a data occurring, and by data occurring it means if you are choosing a data which is in date format, not in number format. Next is duplicate values. So if you want to know similar values, you can choose this option and choose to make it like green. Let's just repeat the colors. Then it will give you the month at which you get the same exact return on investment. Next is inventory turnover. Since we are done with all the rules that are related to highlight cell rules, but you don't find what you exactly wanted, you can always go to more rules and choose a customized rule based on your preference. So you can, for example, choose a specific order of these, like a format all cells or cells based on their values. You can choose it, and now you can choose a specific scale, like for example if you want to rearrange your cells from bigger to lower or from higher to lower, you can do the same exact thing with color scaling. So I'm going to skip describing this thing, but the only thing I want you to understand from all options is that you can customize any rule based on your preference. You can choose from all these drop down menus the exact rule that you want to build. Next is top and bottom rules. You can choose either top 10%, bottom 10%, or above average and below average. So if you want just the top 10 items, it will not be relevant because you have 12 months. So of course you will not have so much benefit while choosing 10 months out of 12 months, because this is like a wide criteria for choosing the best inventory turnover. But in such a case with low number of cells, you can always choose top 10%. Now it will give you the cell which achieved this rule, the top 10%. Let's just return back to condition formatting. So basically, if you have large number of cells, it's always better to use top 10 items. But if you have small set of cells and you want something specific, then it's better to use top 10% items. You can do the same exact for bottom 10 items and bottom 10%. Regarding above average and below average, it will give you 50%. It will give you all the cells which are above the average, which is the 50% of these options or the selection. So if I chose the market share and I wanted to see the lowest months containing the market share to know these months that I didn't achieve so much profit, I can head to highlight cell rules, to top bottom rules, and choose bottom 10%. And now I can see that, let's just change the color. Now I can see that. Now let's suppose that you want one of these condition formatting to be presented in a clearer way, which means that, for example, by using the first rule, which is greater than in the revenue growth, we displayed or colored all these months in which the revenue growth rate was higher than 10%. But what if you want more details? You want to know and arrange these results into descending order results or ascending order results. So it's not enough, for example, to know all the months that are more than 10%, but you also want to know which one of them is higher than the other. So we can highlight them, then choose condition formatting and use what is called data bars. And in data bars we can choose any color that we want. So if, for example, you want to use this blue color, you can now see that it gives you the highest month as 100% and it colors it all in blue, while the others will take a percentage of this higher month. So for example, if this was 18%, you will find that 9%, or let's make this 18% for example, you can now see that this 9% is 50% gradient because it's 50% of the highest result. You can also choose different colors of data bars based on what you want, and if you don't like this gradient, you can reselect them and choose data bar colors which are solid, like this one, but I prefer the other, it looks better. Now we have other type of conditional formatting, which is called color scales, and it arranges all the results, not only the selected results by the conditional formatting, and gives them a color based on their value. So if I chose color scales and I chose one of these color scales, for example, you can see the legend of this color scaling. So it gives green to the lowest and yellow to the middle, then red to the highest, and it's not completely understandable to give it a combination of colors, because if I am someone who didn't create this sheet, I will not understand the meaning of the green or the yellow or the red unless it's a color code in a company or an organization. Unless this is the case, I prefer to use a gradient of the same color. So for example, if we chose this one, for example, white to red color scale, it's somehow obvious that the red scale is either the lowest or the highest, and the white scale is either the lowest or the highest, and people will easily read this case from the numbers. So of course it's obvious that 14 is higher than 3, which means that this scale obviously created a gradient from the lighter color to the highest value, and the deepest color with the lower value. And you don't have to rely on colors to represent your condition formatting. You can also depend on symbols. So if I chose this selection, for example, and went to conditional formatting, I can choose icon sets, and from icon sets it gives you like an impression of what is the highest and what is the lowest. So if we chose this direction like this, you can now see that this value is the lowest. Why this value is high? But why did the values did this hashtag simple? Because the column is narrow regarding or compared to this number or the space this number takes. So we can just expand the columns and you will be able to see the number clearly. I did it by going in between two columns, then dragging to the left or right to make it narrower or wider. So I'm going to just keep enlarging these numbers for now. See, a lot of effort, right? To just enlarge every single column. Of course, you don't have to do it that way because we already discussed a good function which is called the wrap text that will help you to do it without all this effort. So let's try it out. By going back to what I did and returning to the same result, I can now select all this table, or let's choose the numbers only, then click on wrap text. You can see that still some numbers did not do any change. This is because in case of numbers it will assume that this hashtag is the character because the column is still narrow. That's why wrap text will not work. So if you don't want to drag like this, you can just set on the separation, double click on it, and it will expand on its own. So you don't have to drag and you don't have to keep resizing the columns. You just double click on the separation and it will work efficiently, and not only for the cell that has this hashtag symbol, but all the cells that lies on the same column. So this is conditional formatting, and this is why I consider it as one of the most important functions, because it will be very helpful if you are working in the data analysis, because it will give you an impression of your numbers and their values. Now let's move on to the next function, which is format as a table. So if we have a table like this and we want to format it like more of a table, not just some cells written above and beyond each other. So I can select my table, choose format as a table, then choose the structure of the table. If you like this one, for example, you can click on it, then it will confirm the data range of your table. If it's different, you can always change the data by manually changing the letters or by choosing data by dragging like this. So I'm going to choose my all data like this. And if you want headers, you can just leave this unsigned. If you don't want headers, you can say that my table has headers, and it will automatically return the first column or the first row into headers. So it refuses to make a table because we have here on the top a drop down menu which depends on this table. So this will not be able to, we will not be able to create a table unless we remove this part. When I hovered to this part, I found that it's not a function, which means that there was simply another mistake. So let's retry again while leaving this empty part and choose format as a table, then choose one of these types. And I will also say that my table has headers. And it worked, so I guess it was just an error. Now we have this table, and we can also go to each column and choose what type of data we display. So you can exclude like the 1% variance. I don't need it. If I choose this, it will be filtered based on the data I entered, and also it will show me this filter icon next to this column, which means that not all data is now displayed, but some of them are omitted based on a filtration in the first column. So these are all the types of tables that you can use. You can also use what is called pivot table, but pivot table requires a lot of in-depth discussion and explanation, so we will just leave it for now. Next is cell styles, and this is also one of the most important parts in the formatting of your cell. So in cell styles you can change the coloring like this. You can also change how your data is displayed by choosing specific effects like this. And you can also choose whether your data contains title or headline. And finally, you can use themed cell styles, which contains a combination of colors and font, just like this. You can also choose a formatting from here. So basically, you control the style in an easy drop-down menu from cell styles. So this is basically styles. Next is cells. In cells, you can do three things: insert, delete, and format. If you chose to insert a cell, it will ask you about whether you want just one cell, row, column, or a sheet. If we chose cells, it will just enter one cell above. However, you can see that it added a whole complete column. Why did this happen? So it's basically because you will not be able to add just one cell without shifting this cell downwards, so that only one cell will be added. So if we added a cell without adding a complete row, then this cell will go down, so that this one will be on the same alignment of the rest. That's why by adding a cell, you are not just adding a cell, you are either adding a row or a column. So if you did not choose a specific thing to add, it will automatically add a row. Next is to insert sheet rows. By inserting sheet row, it will insert a row above the one selected. Then insert column. By inserting a column, it will add a column to the left of the column selected. And you can also insert a whole sheet, which will be added as a completely white new sheet. Next command is the delete command. So you can delete the same exact things you did. So at the same way, if you selected to delete a cell, it will delete entire sheet row, because you will not be able to delete a cell on its own. If you selected delete row, it will be deleted successfully without a warning, because you chose to delete a row. However, in delete cells, it will ask you whether you want to delete the whole row or not, because you did not choose specifically to delete a row. Delete column and delete sheet. Next section is the format section, and it controls how your sheet will be displayed and viewed. So you can choose the row height. If you chose row height, it will be added manually by just adding a specific number. So the current height is 15. If we place 30, it will be multiplied by 2. Same as for autofill row height. So if, for example, we have like two numbers at any specific row, like this one for example, 5 and 5. Then we went to auto fit row height. I didn't add the second 5. Now it's auto fitted. However, if I did the same exact thing here, it will also be auto fitted. However, auto fit will allow you to just make the height of the specific cell is exactly on the size of the word or the letter that you placed. So if in the opposite, I did the reverse process, I just increased the height in here, then I just placed one number. You can see that the height of this row is large, but if I went to format and choose auto fit row height, then it will decrease so that it will just fit into the size of the content of the cell. Let's just go back. You also have the column width and the auto fit column depth, which works exactly the same way as the row height. So if I increased this to 5, for example, it will be expanded. Next is default width. If you chose a default width, it will give you the standard of the width of the column, which is the same as if we opened a new sheet like this. Next is hide and unhide. If you want to hide a specific row because it contains some information that is irrelevant to what you are building, however you just don't want to completely delete the data because you think that you might need it in later time, you can use hide rows. So if I chose to hide rows, you can see that all this row has been collapsed and it's not there. But if you took a close look between the 10 and 12th row, you will find this tiny little space between them, which means that there is a hidden row inside. So if you want to unhide this row, you can just select the one above and the one below, then choose from format unhide, and voila, it appeared again. In exactly the same way it works with hide columns and unhide columns, or hide sheets and unhide sheets. Next is the editing cell, which contains all the controls or all the functions which allows you to edit on specific values and text inside your cells. So if, for example, I have, let's choose the number of males and the number of females in the company, I can just select them, then go to auto sum. It's a drop down menu, by the way. It gives you the option to sum, give an average, or count numbers, give maximum or minimum, which are all arithmetic equations or arithmetic functions. By using sum, it will just add all these numbers. By using average, it will get you the average number. By using count numbers, it will just count the cells which contain value inside. By using maximum, it will give you the maximum number, which looks somehow like the conditional formatting that we did to get the maximum data. But this is just one value, which is the maximum, or more than a value if the maximum is shared by more than one cell. So for example, if the maximum number of males in 1 month is 50, and on the opposite we have minimum. We also have more functions that we can access from this button. So we can access more arithmetic equations, or we can select a category to select the functions which are presented in this category, like financial, for example. You can see now that there are some equations or functions which are related to finance. You can choose a statistical, and you can choose any type of these arithmetic equation categories. So it's pretty much wide, and it almost contains all the equations or functions that you may know. So let's try it out. If I want, for example, to get the total number of males in this company, I can select this selection, then go to auto sum, and it will give me the sum, but it is still in hashtag. So I'm going to this column, double click on it, on the separation, and it will appear like this. Next is fill. In fill, you can continue a series of numbers in a specific direction. So for example, if I chose this series of numbers, I can choose them, then select fill to the right, and you can see that it replaced these numbers with the exact numbers to the left. So it's basically used to copy and paste a series of numbers into left, right, up or down. Next is clear, and in clear you can clear any type of specific thing you want. For example, you can just clear the content, or clear a comment, or clear the format. So for example, if I want to remove the conditional formatting from this cell, I can click on clear formats and it will keep the content but will remove the formatting. If I want to remove everything, I can just go and click on clear all. Now it cleared the formatting and the content. If I want to just clear the content and leave the format, I can click on this and it will just remove the content. It will remove only the content, and if I try to write a number, you'll find that it has the same formatting as before. Now we have an amazing feature which is called sort and filter. Sort will decide any type of specific arrangement you want for a specific set of data. For example, if I chose this data and I went to sort, then I chose sort from A to Z, it will ask me to continue with the current selection, but this will just sort these columns and leave the data below, which will make my data are wrong, because now I have just switched the months but I kept the data below it. So now January does not have the actual data that it had before. So I will have to click on expand the selection, then click on sort. It will not do this because I have merged cells, so I need to choose a set which does not have merged cells. For example, if I chose a new cell like this set instead, which is this table, and I chose to sort the data from A to Z, now it has been sorted, where you will see that it has been shuffled then reversed back again, and try to focus on it. If I chose from Z to A, see, it has switched, it has been sorted and returned back to its original. Why is that? Because you selected a sort of data, of numerical data. So we need some data which is in text or in numbers that does not exist in a table like this, because tables contain mixed data. So for example, if I chose like set of numbers in any type of data, then I chose these numbers and went to sort and filter, then chose smallest to largest. Now you can see that it has been sorted from the smallest number to the largest number. You can do the exact opposite by choosing largest to smallest, and if it's text data, you will find A to Z instead of smallest to largest. You can also choose a specific custom sort, so you will if you have a table that is not linked with equations like the above ones, you can choose which column you will sort your table by and the cell values based on what you are going to sort, and finally the order that you will seek, whether it's smallest to largest or largest to smallest. Next is the filter equation or the filter function, which also exists in tables by default. So if for example you want to sort this data based on specific criteria, you can just choose the data you want and go to filter, then choose filter, and now you'll find that there is this drop down menu which existed in your selection. So if you clicked on it, you will be able to filter your data based on a specific criteria. So if you want all the numbers except the 10%, you will click on this and it will just disappear. Or if you want to sort to cancel your filter, you can just click on the selection, then click again on filter, and now it will disappear and return back to its original state. So it will be more helpful if you have like more generic or not generic, more classified categories in a specific table. So for example, if you are searching for revenues in the whole year, then you will be able to omit specific months that you are not interested in their results. So you can use filter to just omit any result that you don't want to see. Same for the tables here. If for example you need to remove variance of a specific value, you can do it from here. You can cancel any value from here and it will just disappear. So basically filter is a method through which you can omit data from your database, and it also exists by default in tables. Now there is an amazing feature also in editing which is called find and select. So I basically use find and select mainly to replace a specific piece of information with another. So for example, if I by mistake included a specific name in my Excel sheet and I want to replace this name with another name, I can do it from here. Or even if I want to replace one of these months with another month. So for example, if I don't have this value and I want to include December instead of November, so there is no November here, I'm not interested in this month, but I'm interested in December, I can either select a specific set of data, or I can just select all, then go to find and select, choose find, then I will search for November, which I'm not interested in. Then okay, it did not catch November because it's not a text, it's data, it's a function, so you will not be able to replace November because it's not a data inserted in the cell. However, it's an equation, so you will need to find a data instead. So all this data will not be able to replace it with find and replace. However, if you are trying, for example, to replace head count with another function, like for example count, just count, and it's repeated in your document or in your Excel sheet, you can head to find and select, choose find, then search for head count. Next, it has been found, so you can just use it to find a specific piece of information in your Excel sheet, or you can even use it to be replaced. So here is the text that I'm going to replace, and I'm going to replace it with just count. So I can either replace them one by one using find next, or I can replace, or I can just replace them all using replace all, and it will give you all the replacements that have been done. So in this case it's just one replacement, and you can see that it has been applied here. So basically find will allow you to either just find a specific information or find it and replace it with another piece of information. You can also use go to, which gives you an indication of whether you are going to and in go to it will give you a way to navigate through different parts of your Excel sheet in which you named a group of cells. So for example, if I went to months, it will move to this selection. This is because earlier I have created a group or a name, or labeled these cells as a group and give them a name. So if for example, if you want to do the same exact thing with another set of cells, you can select them like this, then you can head to right click and choose define name. After choosing this, you will be able to name this data based on whatever you want. So if I named it KPIs, you will find that its name here is KPIs, and if I went back to find and select, then go to, you will find KPIs in here, and if I selected it, it will just move the selection to my KPIs. So I can easily divide my Excel sheet into parts and give each part a name so that I can easily find it in case I used find and select, and this is very effective when it comes to larger Excel sheets. You can also use go to special, which I will just explain. You can go to formulas, and if I selected formulas, I need first to cancel my selection. Then if you select formulas, it will highlight all the cells which contain formulas in your sheet. If you selected comments, it will give you all the comments. Since I don't have any comments, it gives me the message no cells were found. It will also help you to find all the cells which have conditional formatting, and also all the cells which have constants, and so on and so forth. So If you just want to search for a specific criteria on a group of cells and not the whole selection or the whole sheet, you can just select this data, then go to find and select and choose formulas, for example. Since they are all formulas, it selected them all. Or we can search for conditional formatting and it will only select those with conditional formatting, just like this. So what about go to special? Go to special is the same as we did in the below ports, but it has more selections. So if you want to find other things that were not found in the first drop down menu, like row differences or dependence, you can get it from this section. So this was pretty much like a fast explanation of the first two cells in Excel, which are file and home. So you can see that Excel sheet has more cells and more options that you can use. However, the first two options are the most commonly used options regarding most of the users for Excel. So if you are interested in knowing more about the other controls that exist in the top bar, make sure to subscribe to our channel because this is gonna be our next topic. Thank you so much for watching and see you in more tutorials. Until then, take care and have a wonderful day.